Missouri's conservative common sense values, rooted in faith, family, and freedom, should be truly represented at all levels of government, local, state, and federal. Because representation isn't just about districts and lines on one map. And our Constitution shouldn't be the victim of out-of-state special interests who spend millions to deceive voters and pass out-of-touch policies. It's the responsibility of the state legislature to ensure that values of Missouri families and communities are represented in Washington, D.C. and in our state. In Missouri, Republicans hold over 90% of local county offices and have held every statewide seat. I have been reminded time and time again, through both good times and bad times, Missourians are more alike than we are different. And our Missouri values across both sides of the aisle are closer to each other than those of the extreme left representation of New York, California, and even as close as Illinois. That's why today I'm calling for a special session on congressional redistricting and initiative petition reform to ensure our districts and Constitution truly reflect Missouri values and put Missourians' priorities first. I appreciate President Donald Trump for raising the level of conversation on this matter, because his leadership on this nationally underscores just how important this moment is for Missouri. So beginning Wednesday, September 3rd, the Missouri legislature will reconvene in Jefferson City. And today, I'm prepared to show you what we believe that map looks like. This is the Missouri First map. This map was drawn here, made here, for here, by our team. It splits fewer counties and municipalities than the current version, while preserving 2 congressional districts as they currently stand. And it retains each member of Missouri's current congressional delegation in their current districts. Again, no existing member will be displaced. They will all still live in their current district. It's simpler, cleaner, stronger. After a lot of thought, prayer, and conversation, I want to assure you that this is not a decision I've made lightly. I hope the legislature will work together to pass this map and critically needed IP reform to stay true to our Missouri First values. This is about clarity for voters and ownership of our future.
Yes, I'm sure a ton of prayer went into this, praying at the altar of the God King. That was the Republican governor of Missouri announcing that he'll be the next Republican to line up and take his marching orders from Trump to redraw his state's maps. This comes in the immediate aftermath of this announcement from Greg Abbott in Texas.
This is Governor Greg Abbott. I'm about to sign the law that creates the one big beautiful map that ensures fairer representation in the United States Congress for Texans. I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Patrick, Speaker Burrows, Senator King, Representative Todd Hunter, Representative Cody Vasut, and all of the legislature who stayed in the Capitol and got this law to my desk. Texas is now more red in the United States Congress.
Meaning it is official. Texas's new maps have been signed into law. That means that Donald Trump's power grab in Texas is complete, wherein he decided that he was entitled to 5 seats. And of course, his lapdog in the Lone Star State was perfectly content to deliver for him and be his best boy. Also, notice how Abbott says Texas is now more red in the United States Congress. Think about that. Abbott, like Trump, has decided that their party is entitled to power. And so rather than, making the case to voters, they opted instead to just cement their own power by redrawing the maps to scientifically engineer permanent Republican rule. I spoke with State Representative James Tallarico about the extent to which Greg Abbott has turned himself into a tool of Trump, a slick con man from New York, and how generally that's not the reputation that Texans like to have for themselves.
You know, I've seen the Speaker, I've seen the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, I've seen the Governor, Greg Abbott, put out these statements where they act pretty tough. But when Donald Trump comes calling, all they can do is bend the knee. All they can do is bend over. And I think it's telling that these Republicans act, so tough and strong on social media. But when Donald Trump says jump, they ask how high. And so I'd love to see that same strength, that same fortitude when these Republicans have to stand up to the president. There was a time when I was growing up in Texas where a Texas governor would tell a president not to mess with Texas. But Dustin Burrows and Ken Paxton and Greg Abbott, they are welcoming Donald Trump to mess with Texas in all kinds of ways. And it's unacceptable. And I think they should certainly be ashamed of themselves.
All of which is to say, this redistricting Cold War will continue. Indiana will follow suit, followed by Florida. These people exist as wholly owned subsidiaries of Trump and his insatiable quest for unchecked power. So the more urgent question is, what can we do to fight back? And there are two things. First, support and promote the California map redraw. It'll be on the ballot on November 4th. This will be a low turnout election. The only thing on the ballot is this question. Republicans are going to pour hundreds of millions of dollars into defeating this because they know that if they can defeat the effort in California while still redrawing the maps in other states, then they've assured themselves a permanent majority in the House. Meaning this is existential not only for the Democratic Party, but the country more broadly. Remember, no one benefits from permanent rule. That is not a democracy, that is an autocratic state, which is exactly what Trump is trying to usher in right now. So as it relates to California, tell your friends, family, coworkers, and make sure they're ready to vote in November. If you want to help the campaign, make sure that people know that this referendum is happening. You can donate. I'll put the link right here on the screen or also in the post description of this video. Your donation means that they can reach the folks who aren't watching videos like this one. And there are a hell of a lot more of those people than you, so every bit helps in terms of getting the word out. And second, if you live in a blue state, pressure your governors to fight fire with fire. If you live in Illinois or Maryland or New York or New Jersey or Washington or Oregon or Colorado, tell your elected officials to fight back. We cannot sit idly by watching Republicans rig the rules of the game in their favor while we sit back on our moral high horse offering up platitudes about good governance. If ever there was a moment to cash in on your political capital, it is now. Again, this is existential. An existential moment for democracy, regardless of what your animating political issue is. Climate, healthcare, abortion, unions, guns, foreign affairs, all of that relies on a functioning democracy. It is foundational. So now is the time to fight back. And if you're not willing to do so, then you should step aside for someone who will, because the fight is here. You don't get to sit out. We either win or we lose, and I'm not looking to do the latter. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.